May 28th, Rolling Stone. Bad Boy for Life. Sean Combs. History of Violence. For decades, Sean Diddy Combs was hip-hop's boisterous showman. Now, dozens of former friends, employees, and bad boy artists allege an abusive, menacing figure behind the facade. By Cheyenne Roundtree, Nancy Dillon. Photographed by Martin Scholler, May 28, 2024, 9:30 p.m. Let's get it. Salute to y'all, man. As he took to the stage at the BET Awards in June 2022 to receive a Lifetime Achievement Award, Sean Diddy Combs was elated. Yeah, he bellowed, punctuating his words with triumphant jumps. The adoring crowd who gave him a sustained standing ovation included his mother and children, longtime friends and music industry peers Kanye West, Janelle Monáe, Babyface, and Lil Wayne. After 3 decades of relentless hustling that took him from hungry teenage intern to A&R executive producer, label impresario, respected fashion designer, and household brand name, Diddy has seemingly reached the apotheosis of his career. All right? And the BET Awards performance that they're speaking of is the performance that we watched on this channel that we got copyright flag for, where he was jumping up and down. And he was like, Cassie, thank you for helping me. That's what they're talking about right there. He closed his eyes and repeatedly thanked God. He got down on one knee and praised his mother. He name-checked the laundry list of people who'd mentored and inspired him. Anything I do is through love, Combs proclaimed early in a 9-minute speech. That's what I evolved to be. And that's what I'm doing right now. The narcissism is just so crazy that you can know what you are behind closed doors and then say what you wish you were out loud, but say it matter-of-factly like it's who you are. That shit is crazy. But soon, Combs struck a more somber tone. I was in a dark place for a few years, he said. I got to give a special thank you to the people that was really there for me. He listed friends and advisors. Then, looking directly into the camera, he added, Cassie, for holding me down in the dark times. Love. What a jerk off. He raised one hand to make an L sign. That should be the picture for the rest of his life. Him holding that L. His arm just up indefinitely for eternity, immortalized in that picture, stuck in the air, holding that L. To make an L sign and held his gaze steady, silently, for several seconds. For the rest of your life, you're going to hold that L, bruh. All right? For the rest of your life, you're going to hold that L. Combs and Cassandra, Cassie Ventura, a former singer for his iconic Bad Boy record label, had split 4 years earlier, but he had been openly pining for her ever since. He posted photos of her online and urged to listen to Michael Jackson's The Lady in My Life. Simp. These dudes are simps, boy. He publicly congratulated her on her first pregnancy with her husband. His comments at the award show were part of a pattern of behavior, one that had been tormenting Ventura for years. When she learned of her ex's latest remarks, sources say Ventura was distressed. She was also resolute. Almost 18 months later, in November 2023, Ventura sued Combs, claiming he held her in a violent form of sexual servitude throughout their relationship and graped her upon their final breakup in 2018. She invoked Combs' BET speech in her filing. For Miss Ventura, the dark times were those spent trapped by Mr. Combs in a cycle of abuse, violence, and ex-trafficking. She said Combs' brutal beatings, one of them captured in harrowing hotel surveillance video obtained by CNN in May, left her with bruises, burst lips, black eyes, and extensive trauma. For Grammy-winning songwriter Tiffany Red, a friend of Ventura's who worked closely with the singer during the height of the alleged abuse, Combs' words from the BET stage had been a taunt. It's like harassment, she explains. You're still fucking with her. Leave her alone. Leave her the fuck alone. In the 5 years after her breakup with Combs, Ventura remained silent. While she was posting about her pregnancy in 2019, she was negotiating in distress behind the scenes to escape her bad boy contract, Red says. Despite Ventura signing a 10-album deal in 2006, Bad Boy only released one studio album by her. He kept her in a 10-album deal to keep her forever. 10 albums is some people's career if they have an amazing career. Very rarely do people get to 10 albums. Combs was allegedly trying to tie her separation agreement to a non-disparagement clause. It's not like we were negotiating with just her record label, Red says. We were negotiating with her abuser. Through her lawyer, Ventura declined to speak for this article. Combs did not respond to a request for comment on this allegation. At some point, Ventura checked herself into a rehabilitation center to deal with the physical and psychological repercussions of her time with Combs and found renewed purpose in being a mom, her lawsuit says. When she eventually gathered her strength and stepped forward, a flurry of other lawsuits followed. 5 more women have since accused Combs of rape or violent sexual assault dating as far back as 1990, 2 of whom claimed that Combs secretly recorded their sexual encounters and showed the footage to others without their consent. Music producer Rodney Little Rod Jones also sued, alleging Combs groped his genitalia and forced him to solicit ex-workers and perform acts to the pleasure of Mr. Combs. While Combs would eventually take responsibility for the assault captured on the surveillance video, he has vehemently denied all the other allegations against him. The day Ventura filed her complaint, he blasted it as a shakedown based on outrageous lies. For the past 6 months, Mr. Combs has been subjected to Miss Ventura's persistent demand of $30 million, under the threat of writing a damaging book about their relationship, which was unequivocally rejected as blatant blackmail, his lawyer, Ben Brafman, said. In response, Ventura's lawyer Douglas Wigdor said Combs offered Miss Ventura 8 figures to silence her and prevent the filing of this lawsuit. The parties came to an undisclosed settlement within 24 hours of Ventura's filing. Again, that's when he called her bluff, and she called his, and she seems to be the one that came out on top in that situation, because that hush money was not hush money, and she got paid. Salutes. When his 4th grape accuser sued him in December, Combs, 54, issued another passionate denial. Enough is enough. For the last couple of weeks, I've sat silently and watched people try to assassinate my character, destroy my reputation and my legacy. Sickening allegations have been made against me by individuals looking for a quick payday. Let me be absolutely clear. I did not do any of the awful things being alleged. Any of them. He didn't do none of them, y'all. He didn't do none of them. Except for the one we saw on tape. That one he did. The buck stops there, all right? I did not do any of the awful things being alleged. I will fight for my name, my family, and for the truth. Can't stop, won't stop. For many, the lurid allegations against Combs were jarring. In part, because he had risen to such great heights as a bankable bon vivant who threw the best parties from New York City to the Hamptons to Hollywood. He's the pop culture stalwart who walked under a parasol held by his campy valet Farnsworth Bentley in Saint-Tropez and turned up at a Met Gala in a Swarovski crystal-encrusted tuxedo and floor-length cape. He rapped about Bentleys and Benjamins and held court at his over-the-top annual white parties attended by Leonardo DiCaprio, Beyonce, Mariah Carey, and Martha Stewart. He called himself the Great Gatsby. He called himself the Great Gatsby and considered circus showman P.T. Barnum his muse. Now, the spotlight Combs constantly chased is trained on his alleged crimes. In staggering scenes that underscore his fall from grace, Heavily armed Homeland Security agents stormed his sprawling Los Angeles and Miami estates as part of a federal ex-trafficking investigation on March 25th. Investigators tore through his office and bedrooms, leaving cables dangling from a command center and multiple safes wide open. 3 gleaming Grammys and an Oscar sat atop a gutted console like relics of a crumbling regime. A crestfallen Combs was later seen alone, a cell phone hanging useless in his hand as he slowly paced around Miami Opa-locka Airport. His vacation in the Bahamas was canceled. His once fortified homes breached, his adult sons handcuffed, and his empire on the brink. That was a vacation in the Bahamas, or that boy was on the run, running. All right, who knows? Only the feds and him know. We'll see. Let's see. While the raids made global headlines, the silence from Combs' famous friends was palpable. This felt different than before, when he could use a checkbook, a high-powered attorney, and a media blitz to overcome scrapes with the law. When his charisma, influence, and connections would allow him to shake off allegations of violence or outcry from his disenfranchised artists. Reparations is getting closer and closer, former Bad Boy artist Mace said a day after the raids. The big payback. Over the past 6 months, Rolling Stones conducted dozens of interviews with Combs' former friends, acquaintances, employees, and Bad Boy artists, as well as industry insiders. Out of the 300 plus contracted for this investigation, more than 50 were willing to speak about their experiences. Several would do so only off the record, citing a fear of retribution. Some requested compensation in exchange for their stories. Rolling Stone does not pay for interviews. Many declined to participate, wanting to distance themselves from Combs. I'm trying to leave that part of my life behind, says one former employee. Those who did speak about Combs describe a complicated man with opposing personas. Outwardly, they see a tastemaker who is unapologetically driven, generous, and jovial, even silly at times. He can be the same privately, but associates who got close enough to him discovered something darker behind the facade. A menacing figure who desperately wants to be accepted and admired. Facts. Just an empty dude who wants to convince you he's the coolest dude on the block, but inside knows he's lame as fuck. He can be the same privately, but associates who got close enough to him discovered something darker behind the generous and jovial, even silly at times. The facade. A menacing figure who desperately wants to be accepted and admired, who uses public declarations of devotion, splashy donations, and boasts that he is brother love, to hide an undercurrent of alleged abuse and violence that in one previously unreported allegation traces back to before his career even started. Combs wielded his growing power to bend people to his will, sources claim, sending staffers to win back one-time girlfriend J-Lo. So he sent his staff to try to get her back. Get her back. Go get my girl for me. Sending staffers to win back one-time girlfriend Jennifer Lopez. Beating a label executive bloody after he became romantically involved with Combs' ex-partner Kim Porter. And allegedly trying to solicit X from a woman on his payroll. Papa, you going down. As a part of this investigation, Rolling Stone sent Combs a detailed list of questions about the new and pending allegations. He did not specifically address any of them. Mr. Combs cannot comment on settled litigation, will not comment on pending litigation, and cannot address every allegation picked up by the press from any source, no matter how unreliable, his lawyer Jonathan Davis tells Rolling Stone. We are aware that the proper authorities are conducting a thorough investigation and therefore have confidence any important issues will be addressed in the proper forum where the rules distinguish facts from fiction. Joy Dickerson Neal, who is suing Combs for sexual assault, tells Rolling Stone that her decision to come forward isn't about money. It's about making sure the world sees that this man who rose to the level of an icon is actually sick and has left so many victims in the wake of his unpunished, disgusting behavior for years. Combs and Ventura, I heard people could say that. People could say it's not about money. That's cool. Why you didn't say it earlier? And maybe you did. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm just throwing that out there. Combs and Ventura at her 21st birthday in 2007 in Las Vegas. Oh, no, I'm sorry. That was the picture caption. For Ventura, Combs presented as her... wait. Let me see. Did I miss something here? Behavior for years. For Ventura, Combs presented as her flashy, established 37-year-old label boss when he pulled her into a bathroom and forcibly kissed her on her 21st birthday in 2007, leaving her in tears, according to her complaint. See, I didn't know that. So this was like a forced relationship from the beginning. This wasn't like she got her deal and then she was smitten by him. If he forced himself on her early, for Ventura, Combs presented as her flashy, established 37-year-old label boss when he pulled her in the bathroom and forcibly kissed her on her 21st birthday in 2007, leaving her in tears, according to her complaint. She says he was holding the keys to her nascent music career when he pressured her to consume drugs and have sex that same year. Combs quickly became deeply entrenched in every aspect of her life, paying for her apartment, having her medical records sent directly to him, and lashing out for perceived slights. The lawsuit says, when Ventura tried to move on and had a brief romantic relationship with musician Kid Cudi in 2011, Combs allegedly beat her. Combs later told Ventura he planned to blow up the rapper's car in his driveway, the lawsuit claims. In a statement to the New York Times in November, Cudi confirms that his car exploded. This is all true, he said. He blowing up cars, y'all. These cake-ass dudes, boy. She's my girlfriend. I'm going to unalive you. Bruh, if you could creep her, you could keep her, dog. You just an empty punk. Money, listen, character, real character, that shit outweighs and outlasts money. Character get money, character know how to act. Lame is going to be a lame in any situation. In her suit, Ventura says she learned to blindly submit to Combs to avoid vicious beatings. Eventually, her lawsuit claims, the abuse extended to sex trafficking, with Combs ordering her to slather herself in oil, get high and drunk, and have intercourse with male ex-workers while Combs pleasured himself and filmed the interactions, which he dubbed freak-offs. She learned to disassociate during these horrific encounters, she says. The public got a disturbing window into Combs' treatment of Ventura and the surveillance video unearthed by CNN. Unearthed by the Federales, right? Not unearthed by CNN. Unearthed by Los Federales. In it, a towel-clad Combs is seen pursuing a barefoot and fleeing Ventura after he'd allegedly punched her in the face during a freak-off in a Los Angeles hotel in 2016. At an elevator bank, Combs throws Ventura to the floor, kicks her, stomps on her, and attempts to drag her back to the room before grabbing what appears to be a vase off a table and hurling it in her direction. Ventura describes the incident in her lawsuit and alleges that Combs paid the hotel $50,000 to obtain the footage and then kept it. Dumb fuck. Screenshots from Combs' attack on Ventura, captured in hotel surveillance footage in 2016 via that's the line for the picture. I took the pictures out. This is just the text. After years in silence and darkness, I am finally ready to tell my story and to speak up on behalf of myself and for the benefit of other women who face violence and abuse in their relationships, Ventura said in a statement accompanying her lawsuit. This was an opportunity to speak up about the trauma I've experienced and that I will be recovering from for the rest of my life. As Ventura's damning allegations were on the verge of going public, Combs was strategizing, according to Jones, who produced multiple songs on Combs' Grammy-nominated 2023 release, The Love album, Off the Grid. He detailed how he planned to leverage his relationship with celebrity pastor T.D. Jakes to soften the impact on his image, Jones wrote in a sworn declaration in April. Jakes did not reply to a request for comment. Publicly, Combs seemingly jumped into overdrive, producing positive press. He fulfilled his $1 million promises to his alma mater, Howard University, and the football program at another historically black college, Jackson State University. He launched Empower Global, an e-commerce platform for black entrepreneurs, and in dropping his new album, proclaiming he was in his love era, he announced that he was giving bad boy artists and songwriters their publishing rights back. It was all a PR campaign. From the beginning, that was even before she spoke. Only some artists say that they were offered their rights back, and Danity Kane's Aubrey O'Day says she refused because her offer came with a mandatory non-disclosure agreement. Woo, sneaky, dirty, filthy freak-off fuckers. A year before her breakup with Combs, Ventura conceptualized a short film titled Cassie that appears telling in hindsight. In a voiceover speaking about the film's fictionalized romance, she says, "How do you just walk away from it and escape it? No. How do you just walk away from it and escape it? I just want to be free." That was my question. He's Puff. I would have just, all them cameras on, just turn to the camera. He's abusing me. And keep it moving. You know what I'm saying? What's he going to do? He going to do you in right there in front of everybody? Not happening. The hotel security footage prompted horrified reactions around the world. Forced to acknowledge his actions, Combs made a rare admission of guilt, but tailored it to that incident. "I was fucked up. I hit rock bottom, and I make no excuses. I take full responsibility for my actions in that video. I'm disgusted." He claimed he went to therapy and rehab and was truly sorry. Ventura's lawyer said Combs' apology showed his pathetic desperation. Many who watched the footage of the assault were stunned, even those who'd known Combs for years. LaJoyce Brookshire, the former publicity director for Arista and Bad Boy, says she was disturbed to learn that these types of actions could have occurred and that Puffy could stand in my face the next day with a straight face. That shakes me to my core. Several women who attended Howard with Combs, however, had seen signs of a controlling and abusive personality decades ago. Combs started at the esteemed college in the fall of 1987 and quickly earned a reputation for throwing legendary rowdy parties. Flamboyant and boisterous, he was often seen driving his convertible around campus and passing out flyers. Though he left after his sophomore year, Combs turned Howard into a pipeline for his enterprises, teaming up with the future label execs and producers Harv Pierre, Mark Pitts, Derek Dida Angeletti, all key figures in Bad Boy's early success. Shantae Page, a former A&R executive for Universal Motown Record Group, was among those who say they had positive experiences with Combs at Howard, calling his iconic parties a once-in-a-lifetime type of vibe. He was a go-getter from the start, she says, always in the know. But other women described previously unreported incidents involving unwanted touching and fits of rage. One woman says she kept as far away as possible after Combs caressed her back without warning and asked if she would be willing to meet one of his friends. Another former student recalled that Combs flew off the handle after she objected to him cutting a cafeteria line. He was a lame from the start. A lame from early birth. You know what I mean? While the moments may seem small, they showed flashes of danger that would soon explode. Yeah, but I'll cuss out a motherfucker in a lunch line. It is what it is. While the moments may seem small, they showed flashes of danger that would soon explode. A third former student recalls how the future mogul would tap on the window of an English class to get a girlfriend to ditch. The visits became noticeably unwelcome. The classmate tells Rolling Stone she would tense up when Combs appeared. The student who sat next to the woman in class recalls, he just had a weird control thing. Yeah, he was a lame. I felt like she was fearful. The classmate, who requested anonymity due to the fear of retribution, says her concerns were validated when Combs appeared outside of the school's Harriet Tubman quadrangle dorm and started screaming in a belligerent manner for his girlfriend to come outside. The classmates says other women soon began running through the halls, knocking on doors in a panic. They were sounding the alarms that Combs, known then by his nickname Puff, was attacking the young woman outside the hall. Outside, she recalls. Puff is out here acting crazy. He's beating her. Okay, that was the title of that last. Okay. Puff is out here acting crazy. He's beating her, the fellow student said. According to the classmate, he screamed and hollered and acted a stone fool until she came downstairs. Another Howard student who witnessed the alleged attack tells Rolling Stone, she says Combs used what appeared to be a belt to strike the young woman all over the place. Yeah, he's always been a lame. His mama made him a lame. Speaking under the condition of anonymity due to the sensitive nature of the incident, the witness said Combs appeared super angry and was screaming at the top of his lungs. She said he whooped her butt, like really whooped her butt. The witness says the woman was clearly terrorized. She was trying to defend herself a little bit. She was crying, and we were telling him get off of her. We were screaming for her. A third source also recalled the alleged assault to Rolling Stone. The woman at the center of the alleged attack declined comment. Combs was born with a short fuse, telling Jet Magazine he earned his nickname as a kid because he would always huff and puff when he got mad. I had a temper. That's why my friends started calling me Puffy, he said. His mom, Janice, a former kindergarten teacher, described him as a ham. Combs barely knew his father, Melvin, a handsome rug dealer working for a Harlem kingpin. He was unalived in 1972 at the age of 33 when Combs was just a toddler. Throughout the years, Combs mourned the loss of a father figure, but Melvin had a profound influence on him nonetheless. Even if we don't know our parents, we still have their DNA in us. We have their genes, Combs has said. I have his hustler's mentality, his hustler's spirit, his drive, his determination, his swag, and his loose hands if he had loose hands, you know what I'm saying? Kay said his mama though, Shy. What about his mama? His mama might have been a facilitator in all of this. We don't know yet. When Janice moved the family from Harlem to the suburb of Mount Vernon, 12 miles north, Combs straddled disparate worlds. Combs straddled disparate worlds. In one, he was a defensive back on the football team at his all-boys Catholic high school. In the other, he rode a train to the city, immersing himself in its burgeoning hip-hop scene. I didn't know exactly what he would do, but he was blasting me out of the house with his mixing kit. I bought him when he was 13, making that noise, scratching those records, Janice told Vibe in 1993. After a taste of the celebrity at Howard, Combs itched for more. He was hell-bent on breaking into the music industry, simultaneously attending college and working a part-time internship at Uptown Records back in New York City. It was Uptown artist Heavy D, a neighbor in Mount Vernon, who brokered the job interview after Combs repeatedly badgered the rapper at their local pizza spot. Former Uptown A&R VP Kurt Woodley tells Rolling Stone. Combs commuted from Howard for the job, evading the train fare by hiding from the conductor in the bathroom. He dropped out of school to work at Uptown full-time, eventually becoming CEO Andre Harrell's mentee. Combs' ascent at Uptown is by now part of his lore. He helped newcomers Mary J. Blige and Jodeci go multi-platinum after reshaping their images. He reinvented the remix and ushered hip-hop soul into the cultural lexicon. He threw exclusive Daddy's House parties at the synth-shuttered Manhattan hip-hop club, Red Zone, that even his older Uptown colleagues jockeyed to attend. He had the ability to convince people that whatever he was doing or wherever he was, that was the hot shit. Dan Charnas, author of The Big Payback, The History of the Business of Hip-Hop, tells Rolling Stone. He understood more than anyone how the innovation of hip-hop, specifically sampling and using classic records as a basis for R&B songs, would be really powerful for a generation. As Combs' star was rising at Uptown, his predatory instincts resurfaced, according to the sexual assault lawsuit filed by Joy Dickerson Neal last November. Dickerson Neal acted opposite Combs in a 1990 music video and received what she considered a warning from Bronx rapper Sister Souljah to keep her distance, given his infamous reputation. Sister Souljah did not reply to a request for comment. She alleges Combs raped her in 1991, filming the attack and showing it to others. Uptown Records' Dickerson Neal says she reluctantly agreed to a dinner date with Combs in January 1991 while she was in college, while she was a college student paying for her studies with the restaurant job. Wary of being alone with him, she requested they dine where she worked. She alleges Combs spiked her drink when she used the restroom and later pressured her into taking a hit off a blunt. It's lame, though. You gotta poison them? Like, what? She says her legs went rubbery a short time later and that Combs raped her at a nearby residence. She also claims Combs filmed the attack and showed the video to others like a trophy. Through a rep, Combs denied the allegations at the time. This 32-year-old story is made up and not credible. Mr. Combs never assaulted her. Combs' lawyer have moved to dismiss portions of the lawsuit, calling the allegations false, offensive, and salacious. Mike Nice Lewis, who worked with Dickerson Neal at the short-lived PMD Records, tells Rolling Stone that she confided in him at the office about the alleged sexual assault in the early 1990s. Combs and Bad Boy came up in conversation, and Lewis says Dickerson Neal's demeanor abruptly changed. Lewis claims Dickerson Neal told him that she had a very bad sexual experience with Combs, keeping her head down as she talked. "I believe Joy," he said. "I just knew from what she was telling me that it still affected her even 2 years later." Adds Michelle Kiola, attorney for Dickerson Neal, and another accuser, Crystal McKinney. "The amount of irreparable harm to my clients' mental health and professional lives cannot be overstated." Within hours of Dickerson Neal filing her complaint, another woman sued Combs for rape. Liza Gardner claims she was 16
certified pedophiles.
In 1990 when she and a friend met Combs.
Certified pedophiles.
If this is true and she was 16 years old, then that line is for you, Diddy. Well, also for you, Diddy. We're gonna get all of you rats to come to the surface. All right. Within hours of the Dickerson Neal filing her complaint, another woman sued Combs for rape. Liza Gardner claims she was 16 in 1990 when she and a friend met Combs, an uptown singer-songwriter Aaron Hall at a MCA Records event in Manhattan. All you got to do is listen to Gloria to know what Aaron Hall is about. Gloria Velez, that is. Gardner alleges the men were very flirtatious and handsy, feeding the girls drinks and inviting them to Hall's residence for an after party. She alleges Combs offered her more alcohol at Hall's home in New Jersey and forced her into X despite her protests. While she was still shocked and traumatized, trying to get dressed, Hall allegedly barged into the room, pinned her down, and raped her, too. Gardner claims an irate Combs later showed up where she was staying and began choking her until she almost passed out. Combs feared the women would tell his girlfriend what he and Hall had done, the lawsuit claims. Combs' legal team denied Gardner's allegations, calling them a money grab. But another woman who says she was with Gardner the night of the alleged attack corroborated many details of Gardner's lawsuit in a sworn affidavit filed in mid-May. The woman, who is the younger sister of the friend mentioned in Gardner's complaint, says she has a photo of herself with Gardner and Hall from the evening in question. She recalled frantically looking around Hall's apartment for her sister and Gardner after they disappeared with Combs and Hall. The then 15-year-old says she walked into a room and saw a man watching whatever Puffy was doing to Liza. The woman wrote that she awoke the next morning at a different location where an upset Gardner said Combs had just shown up there and choked her. Hall did not respond to requests for comment. Of course he didn't. Back in the Uptown office, Combs' inflated ego, outsized opinions, and Machiavellian scheming were becoming a problem for his peers. He went from internally divisive to openly controversial in December 1991 when he and Heavy D helped organize a celebrity charity basketball game at City College in New York that left 9 people unalived, aged 15 to 28, and dozens injured in a stampede. Combs shirked responsibility, claiming he had tried to enlist help from the NYPD and that he had personally administered CPR to several people. But an incident report ordered by then Mayor David Dinkins faulted him for allowing inexperienced underlings to handle the event planning and found that reckless overpromotion had drawn too many people without tickets to the event. With the city investigating possible criminal charges, lawsuits mounting, and rivals pushing Harrell to cut Combs loose, the Uptown exec urged Combs to lie low. A terrified Combs spent months holed up in a Manhattan hotel with his mother, according to Kirk Burroughs, Bad Boy's co-founding partner and president. Burroughs was fired from Bad Boy in 1997. In 2003, he sued Combs for allegedly threatening him with a baseball bat and coercing him into signing over his stake in the company. His claims were dismissed as beyond the statute of limitations. You wildin' out. And everybody put Puff on paper for many moons about all of the shit that he was doing. All right? Baseball bats is a common thread in this. Smacking people with bottles, choking people is a common thread. We can name a long list of people he scrapped with, including Drake and Cole. That's an inferiority complex. That's him. He, I don't know what size he is, but that's that Napoleon shit. After the controversy subsided and Combs returned to Uptown, he still considered himself Harrell's heir apparent, but his access to his mentor was restricted. He spent much of 1992 producing Blige's landmark debut, What's the 411, gaining redemption in the album's acclaim. Around this time, he founded his own Uptown imprint, Bad Boy Entertainment, where he could sign his own artists and make extra cash. Burroughs remembers jealous Uptown execs referring to Combs as Satan and flipping him off as they walked by his small offices in the Uptown building. Well, that's different than all the foul shit he's doing. That's just people mad because he got his own label. You know what I'm saying? What y'all waiting for? What y'all doing? Harrell soured on him too. As Willie recalls, Harrell said, I'm gonna fire Puff. He getting a little too big for himself. He's bothering people. With pressure mounting, Harrell fired Combs in July 1993. Uptown was supposed to oversee the album release of Combs' newest signee, Christopher Wallace, a.k.a. the Notorious B.I.G., but Combs was free to find a new home for his fledgling label. So he fired him from Uptown. The termination was devastating for Combs, Burroughs says, leaving the 23-year-old crying buckets of tears outside the office. He loved Andre, Burroughs says. He loved Uptown. He didn't understand what Bad Boy was going to be. I cried for a couple of days and I felt like I wanted to jump off a building, Combs told Rolling Stone in 1995. I think at times I was hard to work with. You think? Possibly I was doing shit that an asshole would do. You think so? Just abusing the power. But that was only a little bit of the time. So there he is in 1995 telling you what he is. The making of a mogul. Cast out of Uptown and blamed for a tragedy that claimed 9 lives, Combs could have faded into obscurity. But he was scrappy and determined, quickly securing a reported $10 million from Arista Records' Clive Davis, that's another devil, with a lot of blood on his hands. All right, that old man right there, why you think he don't die? It's like they serve him up with a new set of organs every year. But he was scrappy and determined, quickly securing a reported $10 million deal from Arista Records, Clive Davis, that kept Bad Boy Entertainment alive. Now he was helming a skeleton crew, eager to turn artists into superstars and cement hip-hop as a mainstream genre. While the world did not understand the power of hip-hop, I was working in it and watching it unfold, says Michelle Joyce, Bad Boy's first director of marketing, who, with Brookshire, co-created the Women Behind the Mic book series. I knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that it wasn't if it was going to pop, it was when. It wasn't easy. Hours were brutal. Pay was low, and the workload was intense. The next summer, only 1 year after Combs' dismissal from Uptown, their work paid off with Craig Mack's ubiquitous Flavor in Your Ear and the Notorious Big's One More Chance. In the next 3 years, Bad Boy will become the premier label for upcoming hip-hop artists and R&B artists, churning out chart-topping albums from Faith Evans, Total, and 112, and soundtracking clubs and radio stations nationwide. And in Wallace, Bad Boy had a budding superstar, Biggie Smalls, the storytelling genius with the effortless flow. Salutes. Still, Combs was volatile. Burroughs says he once saw Combs attack a woman inside Bad Boy's office in 1994. He and another ex-employee telling Rolling Stone they had to tear Combs off the woman after hearing screams and the sounds of shattering glass. The woman declined Rolling Stone's request for comment. Felicia Newsom, the first manager at Bad Boy's recording studio, Daddy's House, says she once held Combs back when he was about to beat this girl's ass after a fight broke out between two women. I'm holding him by his waist saying, "You need to calm down. This is not your fight," Newsom recalls. He's like he's a whole bitch. You know what I'm saying? If he had longer hair, he'd put it up before every time he fought. He'd kick his heels off. He's a woman. All up in women's drama and shit. Stop it. April Lamprose claims Combs forced her to perform oral X on him in the mid-1990s. Former Arista intern April Lamprose claims Combs turned violent with her, too. In a lawsuit filed in May, Lamprose alleges Combs attacked her in a parking garage in the mid-1990s, forcing her to her knees to perform Floral X. It was one of 4 horrific sexual assaults she says she endured during her on-off relationship with Combs. 4? That's a lot, man. What are you doing there? As Bad Boy was on the rise, staffers kept Combs' transgressions quiet. Whether out of loyalty, fear, or a belief that such incidents were rare, outwardly he was the label's unceasing hype man, ad-libbing on tracks and making cameos in his artist videos. It was clear he wanted something bigger for himself. I distinctly remember the day that Clive Davis called and asked me to start garnering press for Puffy just as if he were the artist, says Brookshire. Behind his back, I used to call him my problem child, the notorious VIP. Combs got all of the press he wanted when he and his LA counterpart, Death Row Records boss, Marion Suge Knight, became entangled in a years-long heavyweight hip-hop fight. The pair had once been friendly. Combs even modeled Bad Boy after Death Row, he told Rolling Stone in 1997. But the subsequent rivalry between Biggie and Knight's charismatic superstar Tupac Shakur would turn into a Pyrrhic victory for both labels. And I will say this, Pac was a superstar before Suge Knight. That I'll make clear. A lot of people connect them, but it was less than a year they were together. Pac was a superstar when he went to prison. Combs was fond of Shakur, admiring his ability to marry street credibility with mainstream appeal. Burroughs notes that the Bad Boy team spent the summer of 1993 studying the rapper's buoyant hit I Get Around as a blueprint for a commercial hip-hop record. Desperate to be taken seriously, Combs tried to foster a friendship, but Shakur wasn't interested. Pac didn't have any kind of respect for Puff, said 90s hip-hop photographer Monique Bunn, who was close with Wallace and other Bad Boy artists. To Shakur and even Wallace, Bunn says, Combs was a corny executive. Absolutely. They looked at him like a lame. You think Biggie didn't look at Puff as a lame? He absolutely looked at Puff as a lame. And then some. Instead, Shakur bonded with Wallace, whom he viewed as his peer. Burroughs remembers. As a result, he says, referring to Combs, there was someone on the sideline jealous. The friendship would be short-lived after Shakur was ambushed and shot 5 times in the lobby of Quad Studios in Times Square in 1994. He blamed Combs and the Bad Boy crew for setting him up, which Combs has always denied. From there, everything got blown out of proportion, Bunn says. Bad Boy execs started encouraging Wallace to write certain songs, Burroughs says, despite the rapper not feeling so beefy with his former friend. With tensions frothing, Combs released Wallace's single Who Shot Ya in 1995. Now, if you ask me, That was decision. That was the decision right there that cemented it in Pac's mind. And even if they had nothing to do with it, Puff put that out there by doing that, by putting that song out. For those that don't know, Who Shot Ya? Just the name of the song itself. If you're friends with Pac, even if he's salty with you, if you're friends with Pac, you release that record, you want him to believe that it ain't about him and it ain't a message to him. Bad move. I look at it like that too. If Puff wasn't saying, if Big wasn't saying nothing, if Big wasn't making records coming at Pac, right? Why would you release something that would vaguely make it seem that way? That's dirty. That's some Puffy shit. Sounds about right. Burroughs says despite the rapper not feeling so beefy with his former friend, with tensions frothing, Combs released Wallace's single Who Shot Ya in 1995. It was widely viewed as a sneering provocation aimed at Shakur. Though Wallace was adamant it wasn't. It should have never saw the light of day. Shakur responded with the ferocious hit 'em up, pushing hostilities to their peak. Perhaps seeing a promotional play, Combs stoked the East Coast-West Coast rivalry. The two label heads traded jabs, with Knight cast as the intimidating cigar-chomping gang-affiliated boss, and Combs the slick, clean-cut executive. When a 25-year-old Shakur was unalived in September 1996 in a drive-by in Las Vegas, Knight immediately pointed the finger at Combs, who denied involvement. Some Bad Boy employees received personal death threats soon after. I didn't recall reading in the employee manual that dodging bullets was a part of my job description, Brookshire says. Last September, Compton Crips gang member Dwayne Keefe D. Davis was charged with Shakur's unaliving. His trial is set to begin in November. Davis has claimed Combs offered $1 million for a hit on Shakur. Combs vehemently denies the claim. I do not see him putting $1 million on Pac's head. I'm not saying it happened, but I'm saying it ain't far-fetched. Not then. Not with that ego. And not with the threat of these behemoths on top of him. These guys was huge stars, a lot of money involved. 6 months after Shakur's unaliving, in March 1997, Wallace, 24, who shouldn't have been there, was attending a Soul Train Music Awards after party in Los Angeles when a gunman opened fire on his GMC Suburban, unaliving him. Police consider the homicide an unsolved act of retaliation. Listen here. He should have never been there. Should have never been on the radio. Should have never spit Long Kiss Goodnight. None of that. Shouldn't have been there. For those that, I don't know if they're going to get into it here, but for those that don't know, 6 months after Pac was gone, they went back to L.A. Tensions was up. There had been, from the day Pac was unalived forward, there was a war going on in the streets of Los Angeles. And a lot of people went down, and these guys had no business. There was still too much tension in L.A. for them to be there. Not to mention, the day before they did the Soul Train Award, whatever they were doing, they were on the radio, and I believe Biggie spit Long Kiss Goodnight. And on that song, he's infamously coming at Pac, a man who's been gone for 6 months. If you wrote that verse before he passed away, you keep your mouth shut about it. But to go spit it on his land, on radio, you wilding the fuck out. Puff should have knew better than for them to ever go over there. Period. Multiple reports allege Wallace had been preparing to leave Bad Boy shortly before his unaliving. It didn't help that Combs had been fighting with Wallace's attorneys, who were trying to wrest back the rapper's publishing rights. I never seen that word. Who were trying to get back the rapper's publishing rights. I will never give it up until I'm dead and my bones are crushed into powder, Combs told the lawyers, according to the Big Payback. So in that book, they quote Puff as saying such. All right, so let's start this paragraph over. Multiple reports allege Wallace had been preparing to leave Bad Boy shortly before his unaliving. It didn't help that Combs had been fighting with Wallace's attorneys, who were trying to wrest back the rapper's publishing rights. And Puff is quoted in that book, The Big Payback, to have said, I will never give it up until I'm dead and my bones are crushed into powder. Combs told the lawyers, according to The Big Payback. Biggie was absolutely about to leave Puff, Bun says. I know for a fact because he told me that. Another source adds. Everybody wanted to leave Puff. Everybody leaves him. Combs capitalized on the shock and sorrow over Wallace's unaliving. Brookshire, who had been traveling in the same SUV as Wallace during press events the day before he passed away, says Combs denied her request for time off to process her grief. Instead, just 2 weeks after the slaying, she says, Combs ordered her to focus all efforts on Wallace's upcoming album, Life After Death. Combs demanded it be number one, number one, number one, number one, number one. Top 10, top 10, top 10, she recalls. It sold nearly 700,000 copies in its first week. When Rolling Stone approached Bad Boy about the cover opportunity a few months after Biggie's unaliving, Burroughs claims he advocated for the late rapper to take the spot. I was telling Sean, let's make it Biggie. You still have a chance for a cover in the future, Burroughs recalls. He's like, no, he's dead. I'm putting out No Way Out in July. I need to be on the cover of Rolling Stone. So, all of that, that's my boy. I love him. Biggie, my brother. Right? And he kept his face, he kept his image, his likeness, what's left of him, from being put on the Rolling Stone cover. That just tells you who he is. Combs got his cover, and 2 years later, he acknowledged how Biggie's unaliving had been big business. I think his passing added to the fame, Combs told Rolling Stone in 1999. At least 2 million of the nearly 5 million copies of No Way Out sold were due to his unaliving, straight up. And that doesn't necessarily feel good, but that's the reality. Sheesh. It's right there, in black and white. At least 2 million of the nearly 5 million copies of No Way Out sold were due to his unaliving, straight up. And that doesn't necessarily feel good, but that's the reality. Every step I take. And now you got to pay Sting forever on that record. Even Death Row's fearsome boss, who's currently serving a 28-year manslaughter sentence, has been labeled a boogeyman in hip-hop, said Combs' behavior was distasteful. When Pac left, I didn't pick up a microphone, Knight said on his prison podcast. I picked up the pieces. People did whatever he said to stay in his good graces. In the late 1990s, fans regularly gathered outside the Daddy's House studios in Midtown Manhattan, angling to see a famous face or pass along a mixtape. We had built this machine, the hottest hip-hop label in the world, and people started to jockey to get next to Puffy, Joyce says. As the new millennium dawned, hip-hop entered its bling era, with Combs and his artists mining the melodies of 1980s pop songs to guarantee commercial hits. They wore matching shiny suits, spit raps about designer socks and yachts, draped themselves in diamonds, and filled their big-budget videos with fawning women and bombastic pyrotechnics. The label was thriving off Biggie's legacy and bolstered by rising stars Mace, Shine, and Black Rob, who kept that thing afloat. They definitely did. Combs won Grammys and was nominated for his work with outside artists Mariah Carey and R. Kelly. He entered the upper echelons of New York society, partying with Revlon billionaire Ron Perlman and Donald Trump. There was a certain narcissism, an attitude of objectifying not just women, but all people, and wanting to be with other men who enjoyed moving people around like chess pieces, Charna says of Combs, adding that he was the standard bearer for hip-hop as capitalism and a social mobility play. He was on his Great Gatsby shit. Becoming a dominant force in the industry only seemed to amplify Combs' bullying behavior. In April 1999, he barged into the office of Interscope Records executive Steve Stout and allegedly turned violent. Combs was furious that Stout didn't cut him from a crucifixion scene in a Nas music video before sending it to MTV. He punched me in the face and then grabbed the phone and bashed me in the head with it, Stout recounted to the LA Times. Combs privately settled with Stout, reportedly for $500,000, and dodged a 7-year prison sentence by pleading to a reduced charge of harassment. That summer, Combs released his second album, Forever. The album's critical and commercial failure. The album's a critical and commercial failure. It sold less than half of what its predecessor did, hardly diminished Combs' star power. Combs is led in handcuffs from the Manhattan South Police Precinct in New York City on December 27, 1999. That's the picture. A few months later, in December, Combs was arrested after a nightclub shooting in which 3 people were injured. His newest star, Shine, aka Jamal Michael Barrow, was convicted of firing the shots and sentenced to 10 years. Barrow was deported to Belize upon his 2009 release. Combs, meanwhile, was charged with weapons possession and attempted bribery after he and then-girlfriend Jennifer Lopez fled the shooting in a Lincoln Navigator that reportedly ran 11 red lights. Combs was facing up to 15 years in prison if convicted. Kevin Rogers Francis, a host at Combs' restaurant Justin's, who did marketing for Combs' short-lived magazine Notorious, recalls the mogul scrambling for money, shuttering the magazine, and hitting the restaurant's drawers for cash in what Francis presumed was an effort to cover hefty legal bills. The prosecutor claimed Combs offered cash to witnesses after some said Combs was the shooter. Victim Natanya Rubin has been adamant that Combs fired the bullet that tore through her nose. Listen, man, that's just icing on the cake. If this dude went into a club, wilded out, shot somebody, put it on Shine, left Shine to take the heat, left him with no lawyers, left him with no money, right? Like, that's, you a whole different, this guy's almost every different kind of dirtbag that you could possibly be. Dude is it. Victim Natanya Rubin has been adamant that Combs fired the bullet that tore through her nose. Combs' own driver testified that Combs offered him 50 stacks using a $40,000 pinky ring as collateral if he would say he owned the unlicensed gun found in the SUV. Others have claimed Combs paid as much as $1 million to Barrow through an intermediary to buy his silence. Man, I don't know that million was worth it. Barrow denies the claims to Rolling Stone, calling it ridiculous misinformation. After a 6-week trial, Combs was acquitted in March 2001. But isn't he kind of now like kind of dry snitching the situation? What's his face? Shine saying, the girl said it wasn't me. It wasn't me. She said it was Puff. She still says it's Puff that did it. With his mounting scandals, a tabloid relationship with Lopez, and the popularity of his Sean John clothing line, which launched in 1998, Combs entered the pop culture stratosphere. It became a point of pride to work for Bad Boy, says former employee Flash Rodriguez. It wasn't just a company, it was a lifestyle. But Combs was difficult to work for. Employees who wanted to stick around had to learn how to speak puffy, Berkshire and multiple sources say. A demanding boss, Combs often yelled to get his point across and fired employees on a whim. No one on his team at Bad Boy spoke back to him. Former Daddy's House studio manager Newsom says, no one challenged him. Another source recalls Mace, whose real name is Mason Betha, calling Combs Massa behind his back. Betha did not reply to a request for comment. He was so volatile, says a source who sometimes worked with Bad Boy. He's always on the edge of snapping and being scary. People did whatever he said to stay in his good graces. And Puffy exploited people's desire to be in those environments. Now, I've been the dude that's been, the guy trying to run shit with 100 dudes in a building, 100 different people, and nobody doing shit. And I could be a little ornery my motherfucking self. But it wasn't no power play. It was like, shit, y'all had more power over me. Y'all was deep as fuck. You know what I'm saying? Like, I get it to be frustrated with people. Most people that get cussed out, they're never going to tell you what they did to get cussed out. They're never going to tell you their culpability in any of it. You know what I'm saying? But it's in every part of his life. It's in every part of his life and his existence. The only thing we haven't heard of is him being abusive to his own children. You know what I'm saying? And who knows if we'll even get to that, if that's even in this. But it's just like every part of this dude's life is just lame shit. It's more than just somebody that gets upset and flies off the handle because nobody's doing what the fuck they're supposed to be doing. You know, it's a dude that been that way his whole life since birth. No one on his team at Bad Boy spoke back to him, former Daddy's house manager said. No one challenged him. He was so volatile, says a source who sometimes worked with Bad Boy, always on edge of snapping and being scary. People did whatever he said to stay in his good graces, and Puffy exploited people's desire to be in those environments. 4. Why is nobody saying anything? Are they that scared of him? After Combs' acquittal in the nightclub shooting in 2001, he reportedly headed straight to church. He later made a less God-fearing visit to the Peninsula Hotel, where he was throwing a massive bash to celebrate the verdict. It was there that Anna, a freelance graphic designer working with Bad Boy's marketing team, says Combs approached her and began to massage her shoulders. The woman requested a pseudonym, citing fear of retribution. I'm getting touched on my shoulder, my arms, my back. He's like, oh yeah, you like that? I know you like that. Like, you really, really gross, Anna recalls. Sharing her story publicly for the first time. I was like, no, not so much. And I sort of floated my way out of there. Anna says she avoided Combs the rest of the night. Weeks later, her boss, girlfriend, confided that Combs allegedly approached the boss the night of the party to solicit me for X, Anna says. A friend confirmed to Rolling Stone that Anna told her about both the encounter and the proposed arrangement when they began working together a few years later. The boss did not return Rolling Stone's request for an interview, and the girlfriend declined to speak. I felt quite unsettled about this for many years. When people ask me about my days at Bad Boy, it's just overshadowed by his crap, Anna says, adding that Combs treated her as though she existed to accommodate his whims. He acted like that about most people. You know, his mom spoiled him. His mom was probably doing weird shit to him coming up. Who knows? Look at Kells. They say Kells was the same deal. It came from one generation to the next. Combs often flaunted his sexual encounters, even if underage artists were around to see. He's wildin'. A teenage usher briefly lived at Combs' New York house in the early 19s. A teenage usher.
Certified pedophiles. What?
Teenage usher briefly lived at Combs' New York house in the early 1990s as a young Bad Boy protege. Puff introduced me to a totally different set of shit. X specifically. Usher recalled to Rolling Stone in 2004, there was always girls around. You'd open a door and see somebody doing it, or several people in a room having an orgy. You never knew what was going to happen. Like, there it is right there. Casey Sheridan, a member of the teenage girl band Dream, recalls the group being summoned from a meeting with Combs to a Beverly Hills hotel bungalow when she was 15 and awkwardly eyeing a purse and a pair of high heels by the front door as the group waited. After 20 minutes, a bathrobed Combs emerged from a nearby room. It's like you can't even keep our innocence. I'm 15, walking into the situation knowing exactly what he was doing next door. Yeah, but where was your motherfucking mama at? You know what I'm saying? Because these kids talk from this position, but it's like, but your mama sold you into Hollywood and sold you into performing and sold you into being at these places at these times and being able to be summoned. I don't give a fuck who my daughter is signed to. You cannot summon her no motherfucking way. Crazy? There's budgets for all that shit, you know? Budgets have somebody make sure the kid's good. Kid don't have to be walking into nobody's situation. Hours later, the model alleges Combs forced her to perform oral X on him. Feeding off his fame and power, Combs appeared to be pushing his most sickening impulses even further. Model Crystal McKinney was photographed during a star-studded Sean John fashion show in February 2003. Hours later, according to McKinney, Combs says she was acting too uptight and pressured her to take a hit from a lace joint. She alleges he then forced her to perform oral X on him despite her resistance. The night sent McKinney into a tailspin of anxiety and depression that she says resulted in a suicide attempt. an unaliving attempt, a self-unaliving attempt. I had a whole future in modeling mapped out that was stolen from me. Being actually assaulted and having no recourse is so painful, McKinney tells Rolling Stone. I felt like I was unaliving every day because I did not have yet the strength to come forward. I hope that by speaking out, I can help other survivors come forward and seek justice. Not long after, between the spring and fall of 2003, a 17-year-old girl was out on a night with friends at a Detroit area lounge when a man in a suit approached and allegedly introduced himself as Combs' best friend. The man purportedly called Combs and let the girl speak directly with him, with the famed producer, who was twice her age. The man, alleged to be former Bad Boy president Harve Pierre. So these guys is at the club with their stupid hat. Didn't somebody say they wore hats and shit? We wore hats to go find chicks. And then they have the chick talk to him, make sure it's him. Like, the lamest shit in the world. Lames carrying out lame shit for other lames. Harve Pierre. The man, alleged to be former Bad Boy president Harve Pierre, convinced the girl to board a private jet and take the 2-hour flight to Teterboro, New Jersey, just outside New York City, to meet Combs in person. According to a lawsuit filed last December by the girl, now an adult, Jane Doe plaintiff. Then a high school junior, she was awestruck by the opportunity, documenting the trip with photos. Where your mama at with your 17-year-old ass? Documenting the trip with photos from inside Daddy's house where she's seen pretending to record a song, pointing at Combs' initials on the wall and sitting on Combs' lap. You tricked out. You knew you was tricking out when you tricked out. You know what I'm saying? If he was a nobody, you'd probably keep that story to yourself. Some of these victims are not all the victim that we think they are, man. And y'all are willing to believe blindly, but not all the time. Not me. A Jane Doe with Combs at his daddy's house studio on the night she alleges that Combs and the two other men raped her when she was 17 in 2003. Now, she didn't sign up for that shit, I'm sure, but you know what I'm saying? Like, to be, you know you tricking. You getting on an airplane. You're going to see some man. You know what you're doing. Where your mama at? The photos were included in the lawsuit to corroborate the women's allegations that she was gang raped that night by Pierre Combs and a third unidentified man inside the recording studio. The woman claims the men plied her with rugs and alcohol until she was clearly unconscious and unable to consent. As she started to black out, she claims Combs led her to a bathroom where he removed her skirt and underwear, and from behind, as she drifted in and out, the unnamed assailant replaced Combs and raped her from behind as Combs watched, she says. The woman alleges Pierre replaced the second man and raped her too. When the men finished, she fell into a fetal position on the floor in excruciating pain, was later escorted out of the building and flown back to Michigan, she claims. Combs' lawyer filed a motion to dismiss, calling Doe's account a decade-old tale, a baseless claim, and an effort to extract an undeserved financial recovery. Pierre did not reply to requests for comment, but previously called the accusations fiction and a desperate attempt for financial gain. Again, they don't all have to be true. We know damn well when he says, I didn't do anything, we know that's a lie. You know what I'm saying? They don't all have to be true, but again, they're not all lies, that's for sure. Rugs were a consistent part of Combs' life, Ventura alleges in her lawsuit, claiming he was addicted to prescription painkillers and took ecstasy frequently. She claimed he had ills and other rugs out in the open like candy, and that he would supply alcohol. Did I miss something? Like candy, and that he would supply alcohol, ecstasy, and brocane, the sedative GHB, ketamine, and MJ during freak-offs. But far from enhancing a party vibe, Ventura and others say these substances only darkened his mood. Once Combs got drunk and or high enough, says one frequent party guest in the early 2000s, he would turn violent and loud. He would take his anger out on people. At several points when Combs was extremely intoxicated, Ventura alleges he beat her. An industry source says they once left the party at Combs' home because they felt so uncomfortable watching an aggressive Combs yell at Ventura throughout the night. You could tell in her eyes that she's scared, they said. I'm like, is this normal? Am I tripping right now? Why is nobody saying anything? Are they scared? Are they that scared of him? In a 2015 appearance on the Breakfast Club radio show, Combs described the deal he offers his girlfriends. If I'm in a relationship with you, 25% of your time, you're just going to feel like, oh man, I hate being here. This guy cheated on me. He lied to me. Combs explained, while sitting next to his teenage son, Christian. But then there's 75% of the time, I'm going to make you the happiest woman in the whole world. How many of these pendejas fell for that shit, huh? Aren't they trying to lock up Tate for getting women to fall in love with him? You know what I'm saying? You go to jail for getting women to fall in love with you. 75% of the time, I'm going to make you the happiest woman in the whole world. I'm going to be there to support your dreams. I'm going to be there to hold you, listen to you. I'm going to be there to be your best friend. And I'm going to promise you smile the most because I'm going to force you to smile the most. And if you don't smile the most, I'm going to make sure that you got a reason not to smile. When these cameras ain't looking, I'm going to come down on you. That's what's going to happen. And you're going to smile tomorrow. And I'm going to make sure you smile every time I want you to smile. When anybody's looking, you're going to smile. That was what he was on. Right? That's what he was on. I'll make you smile the most. You know who I am. This is what it is. Which deal would you choose? There was one term of the deal Combs never disclosed, sources say. The women who signed up for it were not allowed to walk away. Damian Vasquez, a former Bad Boy intern, says after Combs and Lopez broke up, Combs had staffers camp outside MTV's TRL studios with signs to win her back. Ventura claimed that every time she hid, Combs' network of operatives found her and implored her to return, including a Bad Boy executive who threatened to withhold the release of her music if she didn't return to Combs. You hijacked them. You hijacking people's lives and careers. After Ventura left Combs, he tried to paint a picture of a heartbroken, hurt man. A source who knew the couple throughout the relationship says when the reality was, he's a liar and abuser. Burroughs believes Combs' losses at a young age, especially the unaliving of his father, took a toll on his relationships. He's fortified now with the money and the power, but abandonment and the act of leaving can bring about vicious results, he says, and the women catch it the worst. Combs' long-term partner, Kim Porter, who unalived of lobar pneumonia in 2018, was no exception. Their relationship was tumultuous. According to two sources who claimed Combs physically abused her, I remember Kim used to go through a lot of stuff, former Bad Boy rapper Mark Curry says. If you live around them, you get to see the toxic relationship. I think every relationship he had that I experienced around him was like that. Combs and Porter first got together in 1994 and dated on and off until 2007. She ended it for good upon learning Combs had fathered a secret child while she was pregnant with their twin daughters. There were other infidelities, including Combs' affair with Lopez. But Combs never let Porter truly move on, she told Essence. He still called 50, 60 times a day, she said. It was like my life was not my own. He was very, very intrusive. In 2000, Porter's fledgling courtship with late music executive Shakir Stewart enraged Combs, all right? Shakir Stewart, another man who took his own life. Fledgling courtship with late music executive Shakir Stewart enraged Combs. When the industry gathered for L.A. Reid's wedding in Italy that summer, Combs went to Stewart's room after the ceremony and allegedly broke a chair over Stewart's head. He got away with it too much. Nobody wiped the streets with his ass. Nobody smacked him up enough. It looks like he was always ready for whatever was coming at him. Nah, somebody needed to drag him through the streets early in his career and on camera so that he would learn his lesson. He didn't. Broke a chair over Stewart's head, all right, and allegedly broke a chair over Stewart's head. Stewart's mother and two of his close friends tell Rolling Stone. He left them bleeding on a hotel floor in Italy, Stewart's mother, Portia, says. He had to have stitches, and then Combs threatened him again that I'm gonna unalive you. That's when I said you need to get out of this business. This man is crazy. I've noticed him unalive a lot of people's spirits, is the name of this one. By the mid-2000s, Bad Boy had hemorrhaged several top acts, including Faith Evans, Total, 112, Craig Mack, and Foxy Brown. 2 decades later, nearly all of the Combs artists have left him, apart from himself, stepson Quincy Brown, and son Christian. Only Janelle Monáe is left on the label. A rep from Monáe did not reply to a request for comment. Machine Gun Kelly's last track released with Bad Boy was in February 2024. He started his own label, established 19XX under Interscope. Rolling Stone reached out to dozens of artists who'd been signed to Bad Boy to ask about their experience with the label. Many declined, with one saying, "I don't have anything nice to say when it comes to my time with Bad Boy. It was not a good experience, and one I really don't want to relive." Those who did speak to Rolling Stone say they felt their time with the label was squandered through lack of direction. Several spent years at Bad Boy without releasing any music. Shelved. Curry, who was affiliated with Bad Boy from 97 to 06, has been one of the most outspoken detractors, writing about his dealings with Combs in his 2009 book, Dancing with the Devil, How Puff Burned the Bad Boys of Hip Hop. He says Combs repeatedly promised to produce his solo album but never gave him a budget. There's different ways you can unalive a person, Curry tells Rolling Stone. I've noticed him unalive a lot of people's spirits. He is this monster. Nothing has changed. This guy got no soul, no duty to anyone, not even his kids. Producer Rodney Little Rod Jones. Not everyone felt the same. Singer-songwriter Kalena Harper says one of the highs of her life was joining Combs' Dirty Money group in 2009. She was later invited to work with Combs on the Love album. He was fucking cool as shit, she says, adding that artists who blame Combs for the trajectory of their careers may suffer from disgruntled employee syndrome. Yeah, but that don't speak for physical abuse, though. Years ago, there were whispers that some Bad Boy A&R executives would expect actual favors from female artists in exchange for professional attention. I would hear about female artists being asked to do stuff with some other male executives. Recalls one former Bad Boy staffer. Like, we can make or break your career. What are you going to do about it? Going to HR was useless. If you want your job, you're not going there to complain. They add. It's crazy. Filth. On the Call Her Daddy podcast in 2022, Danity Kane's Aubrey All Day says she was kicked out of the group because she wasn't willing to do certain things. Not talent-wise, but in other areas. She refused to get specific, saying the truth was what you can imagine. There was no Me Too, she added. She signed a million NDAs and a million contracts that took away your rights. You signed a million NDAs and a million contracts that took away your rights. Asked by Rolling Stone to elaborate, O'Day says the answer to what happens if you don't do what the executive wants, I'm the full-blown fucking story of that. Some who left Combs worried he might try to expel them from the industry altogether. Brooklyn rapper Lanice Babs Bunny Wiley of Combs' MTV reality show Making the Band says she was blackballed after leaving the label. Bun, the photographer, claims her gigs instantly dried up. Bun, the photographer, claims her gigs instantly dried up after winning a lawsuit against Combs in 2000 for withholding a set of Biggie photos from her. She claims a friend at the Fader magazine told her that Combs personally called the office and said if they work with Bun, Bad Boy will pull its advertising from the magazine. Talk show host Wendy Williams wrote in her 2004 book that Combs spent a lot of money and used a lot of his influence to try to crush me. After she posted an alleged actual photo of Combs and another man on her website. Combs denied it was him in the photo. And music producer Easy Mo B claimed in February that after he challenged Combs over a credit Combs had given himself on the producer's song, he noticed certain people wouldn't deal with me. He's someone you don't want to make an enemy out of, says one former employee of Combs. When people do go against him, that person gets ostracized. For some, the side effects of being shunned by Combs were profound. Francesca Sparrow joined Bad Boy Entertainment in 1998, rising through the company to become Combs' right-hand woman. But Sparrow alleged an age and disability discrimination lawsuit that Combs illegally fired her in 2010. She claimed Combs froze her out after she took time to recover from a hip surgery and voluntarily checked into rehab to treat a lapse in her sobriety. Spiro tried to continue working in the music industry, but opportunities would disappear, a family member says. The alleged blacklisting led to significant health issues, which brought her to her end, the relatives say. She was devastated by the way she was treated. She felt betrayed. Spiro unalived in 2014. As ex-Bad Boy President Burroughs puts it, Combs never forgets a grudge. If he sees a snag in the sweater, he'll pull. 6. Life ain't always what it seemed to be for Combs. 50th birthday in 2019, revelers gather at his 17,000 square foot Holmby Hills home in a black tie attire and beaded gowns, sipping champagne and ice cold Ciroc. The vodka brand Combs shilled for a share of profits. They admired the breathtaking Kerry James Marshall painting that Combs had recently purchased for $21 million. Guests Beyonce and Jay-Z rubbed shoulders with Dr. Dre, Leonardo DiCaprio, Kobe Bryant, Cardi B, Snoop Dogg, and Kim Kardashian. It was a crowning moment for Combs, a testament to the multifaceted success he had worked so hard to achieve. Combs had conquered fashion, winning Menswear Designer of the Year at the prestigious Council of Fashion Designers of America Awards in 2004, acted on Broadway, became the co-owner of De Leon Tequila, founded the Revolt TV cable network, purchased the sports beverage company Aqua Hydrate with Mark Wahlberg, and filmed a cameo in Disney's 2014 movie Muppets Most Wanted. He even legally changed his middle name to Love. With his hard edges seemingly polished away by his gilded life, Combs appeared untouchable. It was all the perfect cover for his alleged physical and sexual abuse of Ventura. Ventura says in her lawsuit that there were multiple witnesses to her alleged mistreatment, but they were too afraid to cross Combs. She claims both Combs' head of security and his assistant began to cry when they saw the extent of her injuries. In an open letter published by Rolling Stone, Ventura's friend Tiffany Red wrote that she was present the night Ventura says she was forced to leave her 2015 surprise birthday party for another freak-off with Combs. Red recalled seeing Ventura backed up against the wall with Combs cursing her out. She said Ventura returned later that night, apparently sedated, while Combs screamed at Red, Tell your girl she wants some birthday dick. I flew all the way from Miami. She gonna get this birthday dick." Red wrote that she told a visibly angry Combs to leave Ventura alone. She recalls Combs ignoring her and driving off with Ventura in a golf cart. Yeah, he just over there living Tony Montana's life and shit. Thinking he in a movie. Just being excess. Just being super too much. You know what I'm saying? A lame that is fermented to the point of, you know what I'm saying? He's just done. Rolling around in golf carts, dragging around drunk motherfuckers and shit. Like, what? Combs' physical abuse extended to Ventura's inner circle as well. According to her lawsuit, she claims one of her friends obtained a settlement after a physical altercation with Combs in 2018. After Ventura's birthday party in 2015, a severely intoxicated Combs allegedly dangled another of Ventura's friends over a 17th floor balcony. Neither friend responded to a request for a comment from Rolling Stone. One source who worked with Combs and Ventura says people fail to speak up because Combs doesn't believe in being told no, and if you get caught up in the wrath of that, it can be very dangerous. In her lawsuit, Ventura says she finally found the strength to leave for good when Combs allegedly forced his way into her apartment and raped her in September 2018, the night she met him for dinner to discuss breaking up. What? They go to dinner to break up, and then he breaks into her crib? He wilding the fuck out, bro. You should get smoked wherever you at. She claims Combs pulled off her clothing and assaulted her as she repeatedly said no and tried to push him away. A month later, people reported the relationship was over, citing a source who said Ventura was moving on with renewed focus on her career. Though Ventura's alleged hell at the hands of Combs was largely unknown until she filed her complaint over overlapping public claims about Combs' behavior made minor headlines during their decade together. In 2017, Combs was sued for sexual harassment by a personal chef, Cindy Rueda, in a lawsuit that seemed bizarre at the time, but has gained renewed scrutiny. Rueda claimed that when she worked for Combs in 2015 and part of 2016, he regularly had her serve dishes while asked if she liked his naked body. One incident in August 2015 allegedly involved Combs ordering Rueda to serve him breakfast in his room and then partaking in sexual activity with model Gina Hune as Rueda dropped the food on the table and fled. The lawsuit was forced into arbitration and ended privately. A lawyer for Rueda did not reply to requests for comment, so he just wanted to smash everything, wanted everybody to see him smash. Just a lame cuck, dog. Is what he was. He's just a lame cuck with a lot of money and power. No different from the Ninis of the world. Hume, meanwhile, reemerges in 2019 with claims that Combs beat her. In an interview with gossip blogger Tasha K, Hume says she started dating Combs in 2014 and that he offered her he's offering everybody 50 stacks. $50,000 to terminate a pregnancy that year. Hume also said Combs shoved her to the ground and dragged her by her hair in 2018 and in a jealous rage once stomped on her stomach. But he never went at it with nobody that was willing to f*** him up. The allegations barely made a ripple, and Hume went silent after the interview. Hume declined to comment for this article. The Detroit area Jane Doe, who sued Combs and Pierre in December, tells Rolling Stone she hopes her lawsuit will hold not just Combs, but also all of those who acted with him, stood silent, and actively covered up his behavior accountable in her lawsuit. He said her nightmare was not an isolated incident, and pointed to another Jane Doe who sued Pierre on November 21st. The woman alleges Pierre groomed and actually assaulted her when she was his assistant between 2016 and 2017. These guys just hire people to try to touch them. Like, you gotta have an ego that tells you, that you're the man. You know what I'm saying? They want you, but the narcissism in that, to tell yourself that, knowing that it's your power play, it's your position. But if you're willing to abuse that, well, then you're just the same monster you would be if, you know what I'm saying, otherwise. Like, you're just a monster, dog. Then in early February, Jones, the Love album producer, sued. The 73-page complaint filed by lawyer Tyrone Blackburn, which included unusual elements such as photos of the defendants and redacted names that could easily be deciphered. Right. That was dumb. Y'all got Meek Mill in trouble. Claimed that Jones worked, traveled, and often lived with Combs while producing 9 songs for the project, but couldn't jump ship. Jones described his experience as a hedonistic hellscape. He claimed to have hundreds of hours of footage and audio capturing Combs, his staff, and his guests engaged in serious illegal activity, including the use and distribution of ecstasy, brocaine, K2, MJ, shrooms, GHB, and the toast. A pink powder described as a mixture of X and brocaine. He claimed that at one party in July 2023, Combs fed him ecstasy-laced liquor until he blacked out and woke up naked next to an ex-worker. Jones said Combs terrorized him with constant, unsolicited, and unauthorized groping and touching of his... I'm going to leave that one out. And that Combs kept him compliant by displaying weapons, threatening to eat his face, and according to the suit, informing Jones that he was willing to unalive his own mother if he must to get what he wanted. Combs' lawyer called the complaint pure fiction. He is this monster. Nothing has changed, Jones told Rolling Stone shortly before the lawsuit. This guy got no soul. He has no duty to anyone, not even his kids. Combs' associates, meanwhile, have faced allegations of their own. 25-year-old Brendan Paul, who Jones described in his lawsuits as Combs' rug mule, was arrested and charged with brocaine possession during the raids on Combs' properties. Paul pleaded not guilty, but later accepted a deal in May, agreeing to complete a rug diversion program, after which his case would be dismissed. The deal was offered because Paul is considered a first-time offender and the substance amount allegedly found was not of a trafficking level, a spokesperson for the Miami-Dade State's Attorney Office said. It's a great question from Oso right there. Where's Farnsworth Bentley at? What he got to say? And where's Stevie J been since that video dropped? We ain't heard nothing from him either. Let's see. In early April, yacht steward Grace Omarkay sued Combs and his 20... Yo, the lawsuits is just deep. And his 26-year-old son Christian, alleging that Christian drugged... I said it. Can't catch them all. And attacked her on board a luxury vessel rented for a 2022 vacation in St. Martin while filming a since-scrapped family reality show for Hulu. According to NBC News, Omarkay can be heard in an audio recording asking Christian to stop touching her legs. She claims Christian later tried to force her to perform oral X. Christian Combs' lawyer, Aaron Dyer, did not reply to a request for comment on the allegation, but previously claimed Omarkay's complaint was rife with manufactured lies and irrelevant facts. Okay? All right, we've reached the final finale right here. Here we go. This is what? 7? 7. Is this the end? On May 4th, Combs posted a video of himself standing by an ocean, staring down a tropical monsoon with his arms outstretched as he recorded his voice as the recorded voice of his spiritual advisor, T.D. Jakes, booms. Not hysterical, not frantic, not anxious, not fretful, but steady in the storm. On May 4th, he did this? Wait, when did he do the apology? When did... Puff, you posting yourself with your arms wide open, singing T.D. Jakes songs and shit? You wildin', bro. Let's see. But steady in the storm. While Combs gathers support where he can, the new allegations have reshaped his world. After stepping down from Revolt, he reportedly sold his shares in March. The Harlem charter school he co-founded reportedly cut ties and scrubbed his name from its website. In January, premium liquor giant Diageo revealed it paid approximately $200 million to buy the outstanding 50% share of their De Leon tequila brand from Combs, fully dissolving their partnership. In a 2023 court filing, Diageo said that Combs had amassed nearly $1 billion from their 15-year relationship, and the wave of lawsuits reignited industry beef with Combs, longtime rival 50 Cent, who is making a documentary about his downfall. Right? Combs is preparing for a fight for his reputation, his legacy, and in some sense his life. Federal officials declined to say much after the March raids, but a source confirming to Rolling Stone that investigators in the Southern District of New York interviewed potential witnesses as part of an ex-trafficking and racketeering probe. Agents may also examine Combs' alleged ties to the infamous Black Mafia family cartel after the Detroit Jane Doe alleged in her suit that the group is rumored to have seeded Bad Boy. No criminal charges have been announced as of publication. Ex-trafficking is certainly a potential component of a pattern of racketeering, or it can be charged on its own. See, that's how that RICO talk. Former federal prosecutor Elizabeth Geddes, a member of the team that successfully prosecuted R. Kelly in New York, tells Rolling Stone. The indictments of R. Kelly, Jeffrey Epstein, and Ghislaine Maxwell, high-profile individuals who long evaded real accountability by law enforcement, offer prosecutors a playbook for a possible prosecution of Combs. Combs is known to sport a gold medallion depicting Lazarus, the biblical figure raised from the dead, and why not? He survived the deadly CCNY tragedy, the shooting that unalived his top artist, his Club New York criminal trial, and prospered. He named an album No Way Out, but he's always managed to find one. This time may be different. As more accusers and associates emerge with hellish accounts of their time with Combs, as more voices hint that there are darker stories still to be uncovered, he stands exposed in a much harsher light. To some, his claim that this brutal 2016 attack on Cassie represented a rock bottom from which he has since recovered doesn't ring true. One source who knew the former couple says the mogul's rage was always on the verge of creeping out. Rock bottom must be his personality, they say. It's never not seen this person. I've never not seen this person. Misa Hilton, the mother of Combs' first son, Justin, had been silent in the wake of Ventura's lawsuit. But after the video broke, she responded by saying, "I know exactly how she feels, and through my empathy, it has triggered my own trauma." Hilton declined to comment for this article. "It's a long overdue reckoning," says Anna, whose encounter with Combs at the Peninsula Hotel still haunts her. "People have been sitting with their experiences for years because you don't know what to do with it," Garner's friend wrote in her recent affidavit that she wishes that she had spoken up then. Raised hell earlier. She watched her friend grapple with the aftermath. "This experience completely changed Liza as a person," she wrote. Dickerson Neal, too, says she was forever changed by a single night. One date with Sean Combs led to trauma and pain of actual assault and an ocean's depth of shame, she tells Rolling Stone. Learning that Combs allegedly distributed an explicit video of her was devastating, and she has suffered debilitating self-doubt and a lifetime of inner turmoil. Those who were watching decades ago long suspected Combs' legacy would end in disgrace. Facts. Hear that? Those who were watching decades ago have long suspected Combs' legacy would end in disgrace. None of this was really a surprise for me, says one of the Howard alums who had knowledge of Combs' alleged attack on a classmate. You're already an abuser in college. You were already feeling you had to have certain power over people. Another says Combs must now face accountability. It's time. In an Instagram post in late May, Ventura expressed gratitude for all the love and support she's received. "With a lot of hard work, I am better today," she wrote. But, she added, echoing the experience of many of Combs' accusers, "I will always be recovering from my past." There you have it, y'all. That is the complete Rolling Stone article called A History of Violence. Right? Salutes to y'all for sitting through that. Bad Boy for Life. Sean Combs, History of Violence. Puffy, puffy, puffy. The writing is on the wall, papas. The writing is on the wall. The question is, who does he have written down in his little list? Huh? What's going to come from that? That's going to open up a whole nother. We're going to be reading a list about a whole bunch of other artists. All right? Because you can't ever give a lame power. You give a lame power, they're going to abuse it. It just is what it is.